I drove 600 miles to my daughter's baby shower, and she had a security guard walk me off the property. I'm 68 years old, and I need you to hear this story. Not because it's easy for me to say, but because I think some of you watching are living a version of it right now, and nobody has told you the truth about how it ends. Now, before you decide I'm just a bitter old woman, wait, because what I did when I got home that night surprised even me. It surprised my daughter a whole lot more. I'm going to tell you the 5 words she said to me on that porch, and I'm going to tell you what I found when I finally sat down and read the papers I had signed for her. But first, you have to understand who I was before that day, because that is what makes what happened so hard to believe. So stay with me. This is the whole story. My name is Geneva Hollis. Most folks just call me Jeannie. I raised my daughter Camille all by myself. Her father was gone before she could walk, and I decided right then that little girl would never feel the lack of him. I was a nurse for 35 years, night shifts, double shifts, the kind of work that gets down into your bones and stays there long after you've clocked out. I have held the hands of strangers while they passed, because their own families couldn't make it in time. I know what it is to give until there's nothing left, and then to find a little more. I skipped vacations, I skipped meals, not because we were starving, but because a growing girl needs more than a tired woman does. That is just what love looked like in my house. You saw what somebody needed, and you found a way. You didn't talk about it, you just did it. When Camille was 16, she wanted to go to a summer arts program up in the city. It cost more than I made in 3 months, 3 whole months. So I picked up extra shifts for half a year to pay for it. Some mornings I came home so tired I'd just sit in the car in the driveway, because I didn't have the strength yet to walk to the door. And I did not think twice about it, not once. That was my joy, watching her become somebody. I tell you all this so you understand something. I was not a woman who kept score. I gave, and I gave, and it never once occurred to me to count. Remember that, as I tell you the rest. The years went by, Camille grew up. She married a man named Marcus, good looking, big handshake, the kind of man who's always just about to make it big. They found a house, a beautiful house, in one of those neighborhoods where the lawns look ironed. The bank told them they needed a co-signer, somebody with stability, somebody with a long, clean record. So they called me. "Mama," Camille said, and I could already hear in her voice that she knew what I would say. "It's the perfect house. It's the kind of place your grandbabies deserve to grow up in." Grandbabies. Well, what was I going to say to that? I drove to the city. I sat in a cold bank office in my good coat, and I signed my name to a mortgage so large that my hand was shaking. My name, my credit, my 35 years of a clean record. And then, I never told a single soul this until right now. When I saw how stretched they were, I started quietly sending money, every month, from my own pension, to help with the payment, without being asked, for 3 years. I thought that was what love was, giving, without keeping score. Hold on to that, because I'm going to tell you in a minute why those 3 years mattered so much. When I found out Camille was pregnant, I cried right there in my kitchen. Pure joy, a grandbaby. After all those years of just the 2 of us, there was going to be a brand new little person with our blood in them. I started knitting a blanket. Took me a whole week, soft yellow yarn, because we didn't know yet if it was a boy or a girl. And then the baby shower came, and I was not invited. I told myself it was an oversight. I told myself she had so much on her plate. I made every excuse a mother makes, because the other explanation was just too painful to look at. So I decided I would surprise her. I'd drive up, show up at the door with that blanket, and watch her face light up, the way it used to, when she was a little girl and I'd come home with something special. Instead, I came home that night with something I never expected. I woke up before the sun, and I drove 600 miles, through the pines, down the long gray highways, that little yellow blanket folded on the seat beside me, like a passenger. I want you to picture that, a 68-year-old woman driving 600 miles, all alone, with a handmade blanket on the seat, because she loves her daughter and she wants to be a part of the moment. That is who I was when I pulled up to that house. The party was already going. I could hear the music from the street. I parked down the block. I didn't want to block anybody in, and I walked up with my gift bag, my heart doing that fluttery, hopeful thing it does when you're about to give somebody something you made with your own two hands. Camille saw me through the window, and I watched her face change. She came out fast. She pulled me onto the porch before I could even say hello, and her voice was low and hard, in a way I had never once heard in all her life. "Mama, what are you doing here? You can't be here." I said I came to surprise her. I said I drove all the way up just to celebrate her baby. She looked at my dress, my shoes, the little gift bag in my hand, and she said the 5 words I will hear for the rest of my life. "You don't fit in here." "My friends are here," she said. "Marcus's parents are here. What will they think?" I want to tell you what those words feel like. Coming from your own child, they don't feel like anger. They feel like confusion, like your body can't make sense of the sound because it doesn't match a single memory you have of that person. Then Marcus came to the door. He looked at me the way you look at a problem you need handled, and he said to her, "Deal with this, now." And she did. She nodded at the young man working security by the door. He took my arm, gently, I will give him that, and he walked me down the driveway, past the shiny cars, past the guests who turned to watch, all the way out to the street. I didn't fight it. I was too stunned to fight anything. I sat in my car for a long, long time. That blanket still on the seat, the party still going, behind those bright windows. Then I drove home, in the dark. And here's the strange thing. I kept waiting to cry, and it never came. What came instead was something very quiet and very clear. A thought I had never once let myself think. In 68 years, my name is still on their mortgage. Not as a weapon, just as a fact. Sitting there in the dark, demanding my attention, my name, my credit, my pension money, going into their account every month for 3 years. All of it. Still legally tied to people who had just had me walked off their lawn, like a stranger. And I realized something I had been avoiding my whole life. I had spent 68 years asking what I owed Camille, and I had never once asked what I owed myself. When I got home, I did not go to bed. I went to my file cabinet and I pulled out the mortgage papers, and I read them, slowly, not looking for a weapon, just looking for the truth of what my name on that paper actually meant. And there was a clause. It said that if the co-signer had a serious and permanent breakdown in their relationship with the borrowers and formally withdrew their support, the bank had the right to call the loan due. I read it twice. Then I went to bed, and I slept better than I had in years. Monday morning, I called the bank. I want to be honest with you about why. It was not to hurt my daughter. It was not revenge. It was because my name was still tied to a relationship that no longer existed. And keeping quiet about that would have been a lie to the bank, and a lie to myself. I gave them the loan number, the address, and in a calm, steady voice, the same voice I used for 35 years, telling families hard news. I told them I was formally withdrawing my financial guarantee, that there had been a permanent breakdown in my relationship with the borrowers, that I could no longer stand behind the loan. And I told them about the 3 years of payments, the ones I'd made from my pension, because that was the truth too, and it was not mine to hide. Not once I had decided to be honest. The woman on the phone got very quiet, then very serious. "We'll escalate this immediately," she said. I thanked her, and I hung up. And I did not feel triumphant. I did not feel relieved. I just felt like a woman who had finally set down something she'd been carrying all alone for far too long. Camille called 3 days later. "Mama, the bank is calling the loan due. What did you do? You've ruined us." I let her finish. Then I said, very quietly, "Camille, I did not call the bank to ruin you. I called because my name was still on a document that belonged to a relationship that ended on your porch on Saturday. I had to protect myself. That is the whole truth of it." She cried. She said it was a misunderstanding. She begged me to call them back. I told her I loved her. I told her I always would. And then I said goodbye. I won't walk you through everything that came after. I heard pieces of it through people we both knew, and I did not go looking for the rest. But I will tell you the part that still hurts, the part that has nothing to do with mortgages, or security guards, or 600 miles. I have never met my grandchild. That is the thing I want you to sit with, not the money, the child, a little one, out there somewhere, who doesn't know my name, who doesn't know there's an old nurse 600 miles away who knitted them a yellow blanket that's still folded in my closet. That is the real cost. And I want to be honest, it is a cost I did not choose. Camille chose it, for both of us. I don't carry it with bitterness. I carry it with a clear and permanent sadness about what happens when love only flows in one direction for too long. So let me tell you what I know now that I did not know then. Know what your name is attached to. Know what you have signed. Know the difference between giving from what you have to spare and giving from what you need just to survive. I gave Camille my foundation, my credit, my pension, my security, and I gave all of it without ever once having an honest conversation about what it meant or what I needed in return. I just kept giving because giving felt like love, and I didn't want to look at it too closely. But protecting yourself is not cruelty. Withdrawing your name from something that no longer reflects the truth, that is not punishment. That is honesty, and it is a basic respect for your own life. One I wish I had understood 30 years sooner. You cannot pour yourself so completely into someone else's life that you forget you have one of your own. So here is what I'll leave you with tonight. If you are giving and giving to grown children who have stopped seeing you, stop, just for a moment, and ask the question I never asked. What do I owe myself? It is not a selfish question. It might just be the most important one you ever ask. Now, I want to hear from you. Tell me in the comments, how old are you? And where in the world are you listening from tonight? I read every single one. And tell me this too, honestly. Have you ever given and given to someone and gotten walked to the curb for it? You are not alone, not here. If this old nurse gave you something worth holding on to today, then stay with me. There's a new story here every week from someone who has already walked the road you're standing on. Now you drive safe out there, and don't you forget to pack a little something for yourself.